Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Wow, this is awesome. Welcome to yet another great seminar for on YAYA Real Estate. We're so excited for those who are joining us, the early birds. So please, everyone, give yourself a round of applause. We're very excited for those who are taking the time out to join us this morning. We have a great one that we believe that God would be taking us through today. So first things first, my name is Adeolu Ogbonewu. I'm one of the members of the real estate team under YAYA Academy. And on the call here, we have my core team members. I'll be introducing themselves shortly. So just a very quick mention here for all of you that are joining us. We will be putting your name in for a raffle. If you choose not to, please feel free to opt out. You can just send a message in the chat. But also between now and when we start in just about 10 minutes or so, we'll appreciate it if we take a minute, again, because of what we're excited about, what's going to be happening or what we're going to be talking about today, just to shoot a message to a friend or someone who maybe perhaps hasn't heard about the program, or somebody who you think might benefit from having some knowledge or even just looking for some inspiration regarding real estate. So please feel free to just shoot a message. You can copy the invite link, which I'll be putting on the chat just in a moment. A WhatsApp message, an email, just to bless someone, hopefully. And then in a couple of minutes, like I mentioned, we'll be starting the actual seminar in itself. If you have any questions, you'll see a few of us here. We're in bracket are the co-host and the host. Feel free to either shoot a private message individually, or you could put a message directly in the chat. Yeah, so just another couple of minutes. On the screen, you're going to probably see some random facts about real estate that we had just put together. I have to manually move it around, but it doesn't. Nevertheless, if you have any comments or anything, please feel free to put in the chat. So we'll be starting very shortly, where we'll do the formal introductions. But again, thank you for joining us early. We're excited to have you, and we pray that the time you've taken out today will be productive and fruitful down the line.
Amen. Wow, look at everyone. That's amazing.
It's amazing. I don't think
3
we've
minutes in advance.
had a start like this.
So I see a lot of familiar faces. Good to see you.
Yeah.
Be a good friend and invite someone. I promise you, even if you win the raffle or they win the raffle, you can split it. So be a good friend.
Okay, so I already mentioned this. So please send a message to someone, a quick message. Hey, join this call at this amazing time here.
All right, let me send an.
So hopefully you're scrolling through your contact list and seeing if you can find anyone. So another very key thing I forgot to mention, the raffle is done at the very end. So although you're early, we would appreciate it if you wait till the very end, because that would be the sort of only disqualifier if you came in early but maybe left. So please stay to the very end, and then we'll be able to do the raffle then. Supposed to be some music, but I'm not hearing it. Sorry about that.
Oh, that the world is kind of lost its way. Crazy as it seems, yeah, I know it's gonna be okay. Okay. You know it's scary, it's temporary, there's something better, we got forever, and it won't be long, cause I know our hope is gone away, away, so keep your head up.
All right, so I know a few people just joined us. So again, thank you for those early birds who have just joined us. We're just about 3 minutes from starting the actual seminar. So again, for anyone who's in the call right now, you will be entered into the raffle for the gift card. And also, if you could just take a minute or two, if there's anyone in your family, a friend, church member, a colleague who you think might benefit from the discussion we're going to be having today, talking real estate and sharing some practical stories of success. Please feel free to copy the invite link from the group, from the chat of the call here, and just send them a quick message, and hopefully they can join us somewhere during the call, and hopefully they can take away something beneficial. So I will be starting in about 3 minutes or so, where we'll have the introductions, and then we'll be going from there. Thank you, everyone.
Are you ready? Are you ready? People get ready. People get ready. Are you ready? Are you ready? People get ready. People get ready. Jesus is coming back. Jesus is coming back.
All right. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Yep. All right. Perfect. So it's 10 on the dot, and in respect of everyone's time, we'd like to start. So once again, I just want to welcome every single person who's on this call. My name is Adilua Ogboniwo from Toronto in Canada. We're so excited to have you all here. This is yet another seminar that we're bringing to you from RCCG The Americas under YAYA Academy. I'm not here by myself. We have a very fantastic team here under the leadership of Pastor Sunday, who will be doing our opening prayer in just about a minute. I also have myself, Brother K, and Dr. Chichi, and who you'll be hearing from at various times during this seminar. So we do ask if you could just, if for whatever reason you get disconnected and you do reconnect, please ensure that your microphones are muted. You will have a chance at the very end of the call. We try to keep it interactive for those who might have been on previous sessions. We do dedicate time where you can ask direct questions and even bring in suggestions, because we know there are people from various walks of life, various levels of experience on this call. So we will appreciate that. And in just a moment, we'll just ask Pastor Sunday to give us a very quick opening prayer. And then I will give a very quick overview of what we do, our vision, and then I'll hand the floor over to my colleague here, Dr. Chichi. Pastor Sunday, please, sir.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone.
Morning, sir.
Morning, sir.
Yeah. Appreciate your presence, and hopefully we believe God that we'll be able to glean from this webinar today. So before let's just go ahead and pray. And Father, we are grateful because you are the Almighty. Thank you for opportunities like this. We thank you because you have put this together, because your plan is to advance us. Thank you for what you are going to teach us today. Thank you for the vessel you are going to use. We just ask, Lord, that by your grace, every heart be open to all the knowledge that you are going to be releasing to our life today. We pray, Lord, that this webinar will be impactful. We ask, Lord, that you illuminate our understanding. And we pray, Lord, that at the end of the day, we'll be able, oh Lord, to achieve your purpose. Thank you for everyone present. I pray for your grace. I pray for your understanding. And I pray for the guest speaker, that she will be explicit in the delivery process, that your name alone be magnified. Thank you for everything, Lord. In Jesus' mighty name we have prayed.
Amen.
Thank you very much, sir. All right, so without further ado, again, welcome everyone. Today's particular seminar is an exciting one. We're having our very first trailblazer, someone who's coming here, the first person who will be coming to speak with us outside of the usual group. So those who come here, usually we have a new face with new insight and a new perspective that we know that we'll definitely enjoy listening to today. But before that, very quickly, for those who may be joining us for the very, very first time, just to let you know, like I mentioned, this is one arm under YAYA Academy. We particularly focus, we're passionate individuals who work and are very active in the real estate space. Oh, looks like someone just joined in. So if you could please just mute your microphones. Thank you. Yeah, so we're active participants and real estate members ourselves. We have realtors, we have people who are investors. And essentially, our goal is just to encourage and to empower members of YAYA in pursuing their goals of real estate ownership, investment, and whatever other interests they may have in the field. Real estate is such a very exciting field. There's so many careers, there's so many, interests and things that people do. It's a wide field, both within the church community, obviously, in the world. And our goal essentially is just to, be a platform where people can meet other people, sort of network, share career opportunities, exchange resources, just be sort of like a database for people who maybe are moving cities or looking for a realtor, people who are just getting into the real estate space and are looking to either buy their own first home or to be investors themselves or to partner on deals and a whole lot of other things there. So that's our goal, that's our passion. So we do ask that apart from these individual seminars that, we hold on regular basis, that, if you have any questions or you have any suggestions or someone who perhaps needs some real estate information or insight, primarily in the States, in Canada, in North America, please reach out to us. We'll be happy to either discuss it in places where we have the insight or the internal information or connections. We'll be happy to make those. And in situations where we may have to do referrals outside, we definitely will. Like I mentioned, we have, tax professionals, we have real estate professionals as well who join us time to time, and we could always make those connects. So please don't let this be the only seminar or time that you'll join us. Feel free to connect with us outside of the period here today. So that's the email address where you can reach us. I also put it in the chat, so save it, send an email, or feel free to, like I mentioned, just send a message to either one of the hosts or co-hosts for this session today. So without further ado, I'll be handing over to my colleague here, Dr. Chichi. She'll be giving us a very quick overview and then getting to meet who we'll be hearing from today. Dr. Chichi.
Thank you so much, Brother Adelua, and I just want to extend a warm welcome to everyone. It's so amazing to see you all here. And again, you have just a couple of seconds to be a good friend and invite someone. Friends grow together, friends keep each other accountable. And I'm so excited that you will get to hear from one of my very good friends, Chiagozie Fawole. But before we bring our guest speaker on the stage, I just want to again just get you excited, set some expectations of what you're going to hear today. As we all know, real estate is probably one of the fastest ways to grow wealth. It's no secret that almost 90% of all the millionaires, at least in the United States, have some ties to real estate. And so we know that it is a great incubator of wealth. And so we want our kingdom people to understand the secrets of real estate and real estate investment. And so today you're going to be hearing success stories, right? You're going to be hearing how a specific investor, Dr. Fawole, at different stages of her life, made very key decisions that helped her grow her wealth. And in fact, she is in the business of helping others grow their wealth as well. So you're going to come away with a lot of knowledge. I pray you have a notepad or your phone out with the notes section open, and that you're ready to catch all the gems that she is about to drop. So without further ado, I just want to set a quick introduction. So Dr. Chiagozie Fawole is a board certified anesthesiologist, and she will share a little bit of her journey. But not only is she a physician, she is an author, she is a serial entrepreneur, she is a proud mama and amazing wife. And I just love her so. And so without further ado, I just want to invite Dr. Fawole on stage just to share a little bit, address the crowd before we get started. Dr. Fawole, welcome to YAYA Academy.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chichi. It is so wild that we're on here now.
Yes.
For everything that happened to lead up to this, but I am so glad, super excited. If I tell you what I did last night, you will know that I was actually super excited to be on here this morning. So thank you again for having me on. I am just in awe that there are 50 people on a Saturday morning on Zoom. That's all I'll just say, but thank you.
Okay, awesome. So just to get started, can you share a little bit about your journey? When did real estate first even become a thing for you? Had you heard about it? Had you, had someone hinted to you that real estate was the way to go? How exactly did you get started on your real estate journey? And around when in your journey was that?
Okay, so my story actually kind of starts like way back during residency, right? Actually, during residency, so if you're anything familiar with the medical kind of continuum, that is like, I don't know how many years of training, somewhere in between during residency, I was just looking around me and I was like, this has got to be more. Like, there was like an itch, right? Because you had achieved, because you had like, gotten into medical school, gotten into residency, done all those like hurdles, all those applications that we used to work on back then, Chichi, all those personal statements, right? And then finally you got into residency and you're like, wait, I'm about to be an attending. There's nothing else to achieve. And I'm looking around and I'm like, okay, do I like what I see in the attendings, right? And I noticed that, and I always say this, no shade to anyone, but I noticed that there were certain attendings that like when we had like dinner, they will like splurge on the money. They'll be like, hey guys, just take, buy whatever, like order dinner for everybody and we'll all sit down and like on call, we'll sit down, we'll all have a nice dinner. And then there were some attendings that, again, no shade to anyone, they can do their finances however they want, but they'll be like, yeah, so here's like $20 for this person, because like, the wife will be angry. And I thought, so I guess even becoming an attending doesn't necessarily mean that you're like rolling in the dough and all of that is going on. So I just had this thing of like, there had to be more. And then it was during residency one day. So I was actually praying about it a lot back then, because I was like, Lord, I want like a business idea. I want a business idea. I want a business idea. And then one day I was watching TV and there it was, flip or flop on HGTV. I saw Tarek and Christina, they were flipping houses then, make $60,000 on one flip. And I said to myself, what am I doing, right? What am I doing? Because at the time I was making $54,000 an entire year during residency. And I was like, they just made my entire annual salary in one deal. What am I doing? They didn't have to take call. They didn't have to like miss their kids' event. They didn't have to do any of that. That was when I said, you know what? I don't know what they're doing, but I have to figure it out. And that took me down the rabbit hole, the beautiful rabbit hole that became real estate.
Oh my goodness, so good. So if you are in this webinar and you too have an itch and you're thinking that there's more, I just want to excite you that you are in good company. And so, you mentioned the fact rabbit hole, and I know your journey, and I can't wait for people to hear it. What excites you most? Right by now you're a seasoned investor. So from that first HGTV, watching, that realization of the $60,000, how, along your journey, what still excites you most about real estate investing? Because let's be real, there's some people who are nervous, who are apprehensive, who are like, yeah, that's great for Dr. Chiagozie, that's great for Dr. Fawole, but it may not be for me. So, what still excites you and what can people glean before we get into the details?
Yes, amazing. Okay. At different phases, different things excited me. Okay. But right now, what excites me is driving 30 minutes away from my current house, just 30 minutes, and walking into our lakefront property that we bought as an investment property, right? And just standing in front of the water. That's what excites me. Now, we didn't start with the lakefront property. Let's just put it out there, right? But being able to, in one transaction, get a property that generates cash flow that can save me massively on taxes if I put in the work, right? because the tax, whatever, is not free, right? And my wellness plan, having a place that I can just get away to and come back refreshed, strong, healthy, ready to take on the world in one transaction, doing that. That's what still excites me.
So good. Oh my gosh. So, I want to get the difficult questions off people's chest right off the bat, right? So you have this amazing cash flow plan. God has really helped you. So someone in this climate, in this market, in 2023, almost about to enter Q4, we see all of the news bites, inflation, this and this and this and this and this. Would you still forge ahead full speed, right? Are you a green light kind of person for real estate investing in this market? Are you a yellow light? Are you a red light, right? So where do you stand in terms of, given the current climate, what would be your advice to savvy investors or people who want to jump in?
Okay. What I usually tell people, well, I think in my world, that light's always green. If it's not green, I'll paint it green myself, okay? The reason is, in 2017, I stopped buying because I was afraid the market will crash, okay? 2016, we did our first deal, right? The first, what was that deal again? The multifamily deal, like the 12-unit apartment complex. Now, I wanted to go to buy more. I wanted to just go. But then I was looking at the prices in Rochester then, and I'm like, this is getting too high. Like, who's going to pay this amount? I don't want it to crash. So I literally took my foot off the brake and went to buy kind of like safer properties because I didn't want the market to crash on me in 2017. Okay, 2017. Now, those of you who have been following know that any property that you bought in 2017 is probably worth at least 25% more of what it is now. So we'll just leave that there right now. So what do I think right now about the market? I think right now is a market where you cannot drive untrained. Okay, this is not a learner's market in the sense that you cannot just go in and buy anything off the shelf. You need to know what you're doing. Like, you need to be in like driving school if you're going to be in this market. This is like the highway of real estate type of thing where you need to know kind of what you're doing to be in the market. But at the same time, if you don't get started now, you will be left on the other side of it if you haven't started. Okay, so sometimes people ask me like, oh, but the market, but the interest rate, but all of that. And I'm saying, listen, there's nothing different about this market than 3 or 4 years ago in terms of what you have to do. Okay. Now, the response to what you do may be different, which may mean that your strategy has to adapt. But in terms of looking every day on Zillow, running the numbers on like multiple deals at a time, right? Making multiple offers, those are the same. Making sure that the numbers work, those are the same. Trying to find creative ways to amplify your returns, those remain the same. Trying to find hidden things about the property. Like, you walk into a property, it's like a 2-bedroom, 1-bath home, and you're like, I can see a 3-bed. I can definitely add a 3-bedroom right there. I can definitely, add a bathroom there. Oh my goodness, look at that over there. I can add a hot tub. Like, those overall things are still the same. What is different right now, though, is the seller sentiment. Number one, because the market has gone up so high, some sellers still want, really high prices. Now, depending on where you are, in some markets, that whatever has kind of like calmed down a little bit. In some markets, it's still going. So you have to decide on how exactly you want to now find the sellers so that you're either competing with the entire market or you're competing with just yourself. Okay. And if you can find what's called motivated sellers, that has not changed. People are still going through divorces. People are still having family members die. People are still getting sick. People are still getting old and wanting to hand off their properties. Just on Thanksgiving Eve last year, okay, so 2022, I was at work and I happened to do my daily thing of just like checking Zillow just in case. And I stumbled upon a for sale by owner property. Okay. I called Tony, my husband, and I was like, dude, we need to go see this place today. So about maybe 4 p.m. that day, actually, full disclosure, my daughter wasn't feeling well. She was having like a asthma thing going on at the time. I was like, how's she doing? Can she handle a 30-minute ride? She's like, I think we can handle it. I was like, let's go. We bundle her in the car, albuterol and all. We get to the seller. He's trying to sell a lakefront property. By the time we're done talking with him, it turns out, oh, by the way, he happens to also own the one next door and the one behind it. So, my dears, this is how we were able to find 3, not 1, 3 lakefront properties direct to the owner, okay, on Thanksgiving Eve when nobody else is looking, when everybody is trying to like back away and hurry up and get to their, Thanksgiving destinations or whatever. We actually ended up traveling that weekend. So we left town the next morning. Okay. But we closed on those 3 properties in, I think it was May this year, for a whopping crazy, you know what? I'm gonna leave that right there. I won't tell you how much it was.
No, you cannot. I don't want to just like
no.
You have to drop. You have to drop the gems. You can't leave us hanging.
630.
Wow.
3, not 1.
Do the math. That's about 210 per property. And I mean, that's insane. For what state are you in again?
Syracuse, New York.
New York, 210 per lakefront property. Insanity. And I just want to peel back a couple of things that you said. One, you have to develop the muscle, and that's precisely why YAYA Academy exists, is to help people build that muscle. That's why we have these webinars, we have training. We want to make sure that people are not jumping in blind, like you said. We need to be even that much more meticulous. Due diligence is a must, right? And it's even more critical in today's market. And I love what you said. You said it's not just, get on the highway. We could have done that in earlier years. Right now, you need to be in driving school. So I want to give you the chance to take us through driving school. Is that okay? Just starting from maybe the first season of your life in investing, so for those who are new investors, those who are just starting out, when you were starting out, what sort of deals were you looking at? What sort of due diligence were you doing? And if you can sort of sprinkle in some lessons learned, some barriers that you overcame, it took you a while to get to 3 lakefront properties on Thanksgiving Eve for $630K, which is, that's the God factor right there. But how did you build that muscle and that resilience over time?
Okay, so I'm glad that you said that, because there is the God factor. Okay, I personally have been kind of reciting to myself that he will give me treasures of darkness, hidden riches of secret places. So when you read the Bible, right, you need to be reading it from the context of an investor actually trying to tap into the riches that God himself has created and made available to you. Okay, so like I said, my journey began during residency. And those of you who do not understand the medical continuum, during residency, you're not paid much. Okay, you're paid just like, let me rephrase that. You're not paid as much as you would have been if you had finished residency. Let's just put it that way. Okay. So at the time, I did not even have, like, we had my loans at the time on forbearance or whatever that thing is called, where you're basically putting the loans on hold because, heck, we lived in New York City, right? In Brooklyn, New York. And when they sent us how much we were supposed to pay was like $1,700 or whatever. I'm like, if I pay that and I pay my, like, it would have to be like that or my rent. So let's put that on hold in the meantime. But even in that, I said, okay, you know what? Let's get started. So now the question is, how's it going to work? Well, the good news was that at the time, now write this down, I had read a book called How to Invest in Real Estate with Low or No Money Down. I'll say it one more time. How to Invest in Real Estate with Low or No Money Down. Okay, and that was written by Brandon Turner. Let me tell you what this book did for me. It took away my excuses, okay? Because after I read that book, I was faced with a decision. Do you want it or not? Because it's one thing when you see that you want to do something and then you realize you can't do it because you actually cannot do it. It's another thing when you want to do something, you see what needs to be done, and then you say, I don't think I want to do that. Now, where do you feel more empowered, right? It's the second one, because you realize I could do it if I wanted to, but look at what needs to be done. I don't think I want to do it. So now you can't complain, oh my goodness, I can't do it because I am, name the thing, because I'm a resident, because I'm tired, because I'm poor, because I'm broke, because the government, because I'm Black, because, name it, right? All those excuses just like left the window. So I read that book. And so my first approach to investing was basically how to invest in real estate with other people's money. And that literally was how I started. My very first deal that I did was a flip, basically, like a renovation deal all the way down in Norfolk, Virginia. I remember I was in Brooklyn, New York. And for that deal, actually partnered with my dad. Now, he at the time had some money saved up and was also interested in real estate. He was also close to where I had found the property remotely. And I said, hey, would you want to partner on this deal? And we did. He was a boots on the ground person. I did everything that I could do on the phone from Brooklyn during residency, still a resident, still in the hospital, still being on call, still doing all these things. And then we got that deal done. Okay, got that deal done. That was in February, I want to say 2016. Okay, so we rehabbed that deal for a couple of months. By the time we ended up selling it, it actually sold not for 60K profit like I had seen on TV. It sold at what would have been 10K of a loss. Now remember, I didn't have any money going into this deal, like my own personal money. I had stuff on some credit cards, so it really stung, right? It stung like mad. And I was like, man, the money that I didn't have, now we've lost. Like, what are we, how is it going to continue? So I said, nah, we're not gonna be flipping homes until we actually have, money to make this happen. But while all that was happening, I realized I had been on the real estate forums and stuff, and had seen that, okay, that multifamily was like a safer way to start. So multifamily long-term rentals. And so I had also heard that, if you don't have the money, then listen to this. Find a deal so big that other people can fit in it, okay? Find a deal so big that other people can fit in it. So for me at the time, that deal turned out to be a 12-unit apartment complex. Now remember, I hadn't had any rental property prior to that, not one. My only deal before then was the rehab deal in Norfolk, right? So now how can I, a newbie, right, go from no rental property to a 12-unit apartment complex? Now listen to this. You do not have to start with one, okay? There is no book that says, okay, you are brand new to this, you therefore must start with a single family home. No, there is no book that says, okay, you start with a single family home and then over time you grow to 2 units and 4 units and 5. No. Here is what blew my mind a couple of months ago. I attended a conference in Miami back in, I think it was April or May. And I met a young man who started this journey about 18 months ago at the time. And he had 3 properties, each of them higher than $100 million. So when I say you do not have to start with single family homes to kind of creep your way up, I absolutely mean it. Okay, so back to my story. So back in 2016, I found a 12-unit apartment complex. At the time, it was bigger than I could ever have handled. Mine, I was like, this is like a huge step for me, but I didn't have the money anyway. So I figured it had to be that size. So I found a couple of friends of mine, including Dr. Chichi right here. She was my very first investor. So guys, thank her, okay? She was my very first investor at the time. And when she said, I was like, yeah, I have this deal. I think the numbers look good. Here's what I'm seeing here, blah, 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 blah. I think it's gonna work. She was like, okay, I'm in. And I was like, oh. And so when she said yes, I was like, all right, I'm not crazy. So I went to go find other people that were just like her who somehow had some money saved up, which I didn't have at the time, right? And I got them in on this deal. And we actually ended up holding on to that property for the next 4 years. We exited that deal in 2020. So mid-pandemic, or was it 2021? No, 2020, mid-pandemic. After having kind of gone through I can go into all the fun details that happened in between, but I'm happy to announce that deal, at least at the time we finished, I gave them what they gave me back, plus 40% when the deal closed out. So I was very happy about that deal. I'm going to kind of pause here because this is like phase 1 kind of opening up. So it's probably a good place to kind of pause, and then we'll go to phase 2 and then phase 3.
Oh my goodness. So good. So good. So good. I mean, just to kind of let you know from the other side of things, just 30 seconds to share a little bit of my story. So for me, I was also in grad school. So again, we're sort of like accountability partners. And here's the pro tip. This is why I'm bringing this up. It pays to do business with kingdom-minded people, right? It pays to do business with like-minded people. And so, at the time for me, I too was in grad school. God was showing me specific details about why I needed to get into real estate that I won't share here. And so for me, again, the God factor, it was one of those things where within 24 hours, I had put in a bid for a deal and got it and won it at a crazy amount. Made no sense, right? At the time, I didn't even have a car. So for how I made the deal. So, God was leading me on my journey. And of course, we're praying together, we're talking together. And so when you presented that deal for the 12 unit in New York, I mean, before you even finished, I knew the numbers made sense. I knew we had to do it. And it was such an easy yes. And God truly, truly, truly made that deal work for us. So I just want to encourage anybody here who's like, how do I get started? Look around you. God has placed people in your life right, that you can do life with to take you to the next level. It doesn't mean that you're not going to be diligent. It doesn't mean that you're not going to put things on paper. We always encourage you. It's still a deal. It's still a business partnership, right? Make sure that it is clearly outlined and detailed in some sort of, legal document. But if the deal makes sense, go for it. The Bible says that some people will always say that there is a lion in the streets. There will always be excuses, as Dr. Fawole said, but at some point you have to address them and you have to go ahead and still cast your bread on many waters. So I just want to pause there. There are already some questions, and I want to leave time for these gems of questions. Thank you, Kemi. Thank you, some of the people who are asking. So that's phase one, right?
Yes.
So really quickly, jump into phase two. So how did you graduate from, that multifamily? And I know, again, you're a serial entrepreneur. Take us to phase two and phase three.
Okay, so phase two. Now, before we start phase two, just to kind of touch on one question, and I won't answer the full question. I'll just say, I came with gifts, by the way, with a really sweet gift. So if you stay till the end, you get access to that gift. So just I got you, Dr. Kemi. No, actually, yeah. All right. So phase two, we close on the 12-unit apartment complex. Oh, by the way, the day we close on the 12-unit apartment complex, we also close on our personal home. So that's a whole thing. But I finished my 1 year of fellowship training in Rochester, and we moved to Syracuse, New York for my very first job as an attending. Now, I get to Syracuse, I'm expecting my second baby at this time, but I look around and I see the home prices. And I remember we had lived in Brooklyn, New York, okay, where everything was so expensive. So now imagine me moving from Brooklyn to Rochester and seeing home prices like rock bottom, like 174, 350. I was like, let's buy up all of this. So when we moved to Syracuse, it's like, all right, first of all, I chose my job in Syracuse for the real estate. Okay, I literally had an offer for a job, $100,000 more than what they were offering me for the Syracuse one, but I was like, nah, I'm coming to Syracuse. Okay, so when I started, my first thing that I did was I started hunting for houses, and we actually got 3 offers accepted within 1 week. Okay. Now, remember, I had wanted to kind of build the whole multifamily thing. By the time we got to Syracuse, my husband goes, yeah, how about we just like not use other people's money like that? Can we just like just do our own thing and not have like, like all these like other investors going on? I'm like, all right, fine, right? Because I'm like accelerator and he's like the safety brakes. So we said, okay, fine, we'll just do our thing. So we started buying smaller multifamily, 2 families at a time, right? And what we were doing was that we'll buy the property, we'll buy properties that needed work. It is called the BRRRR strategy, where you basically buy, okay, so it's BRRR, I think another R. You buy your property, you renovate it, and after you're done and renovating it, you rent it out and put tenants in it. And now that it's nice and stabilized, you go to the bank and you refinance, that's the third R. And then when you get the money back that you initially put into it, you repeat the process. Okay, so it's buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. So that was our strategy. But the first one, we actually ended up closing on 2 properties in the same day, which at the time, again, was out there. With that, we used both hard money loans and like a personal loan or something at the time. And we were now able to use that, I call it a pile of cash, across multiple deals, because we finished that one, refinanced, took the money out, put it into the next deal, refinanced, took the money out, put it into the next deal. It's currently sitting in a 7-unit apartment complex that we found in a really interesting way. Okay, so for that period, our main focus was the BRRRR strategy. Now, the last apartment complex that I said we now parked that money in was a 7-unit apartment complex that I found in a really interesting way, and that was using a tool at the time. Actually, it still exists. It's called Deal Machine. Okay, Deal Machine. This tool is used for what we call driving for dollars. Okay, so now remember, if you go on Zillow or the multiple listing service, the MLS, right, where realtors list property, you can see the property, and it's nice because you already know that the sellers have already raised their hand saying, I want to sell. But guess what? So does everybody else, right? And so there can be competition. And if you're trying to find a really good deal, if you're trying to find a really sweet deal, yes, you can work it that way, but you have to kind of be catering to both the realtor and the other people that are trying to buy the property. But if you do what's called basically finding what we call off-market deals, okay, which is what I did in this case, you can be direct to the seller enough that you can negotiate things, including the price and the terms. So what happened here was there is this apartment complex that I see each time as I'm driving in from work. I saw it was very nicely positioned at a major like intersection in the area. And I was like, you know what, that would be a nice place to have. So this tool called Deal Machine, what it does is that when you get to a house, you can click on the house and you in the tool, send a postcard to the owner of the property. It'll tell you who the owner of the property is. And just with a couple of clicks, you can send a postcard. So I used the tool and I sent a bunch of postcards to this apartment complex owner because I'm like, you want to sell your house? Do you want to sell your house? Do you want to sell your house? And then he comes, he sends me a message and he calls me one day and he's like, yeah, I've received your postcards. Well, the apartment complex that you're asking me for, I'm not ready to sell yet, but would you be interested in a 7-unit apartment complex? And I'm like, yes, please. Yes, please, I will be. So he sends me the info. I look at the area. I was like, it's a little away from where we normally buy, but it's a 7-unit apartment complex. Heck, I can make it work. And I'm like, okay, so how much are you asking? He tells me, he's like, basically we came down to like 155. And how much are the rents? The rents at the time were like $3,400 a month. Like, so some people use what's called the 1% rule when they're trying to evaluate to see if a property, is profitable. Some people use the 1% rule, the 2% rule. It used to be the 2% rule, but then things got so high, people could not find a 2% property anymore. So they started doing the 1% rule. And now things are even so high that you can hardly even find that anymore. But now imagine me at the time finding a property that scaled the 2% rule as multifamily in 2020. This is before the pandemic hit, of course. So we closed on this property, but now here's the kicker. No banks were involved, okay? Because I was direct to the seller, I basically asked him and I said, hey, listen, do you have a mortgage on this thing? And he's like, no. I'm like, would you be open to financing? And he's like, actually, yeah. Now it's called seller financing, okay? So seller financing, this is basically when the seller, instead of you going to a bank to get a full mortgage, the seller becomes the bank. The first time I heard it, I was like, what? Why would anybody sell their property and then themselves be the bank that lends you the money for? Like, it made no sense to me. But the thing is, they don't actually have to give you money, right? All that they do is that it's basically like an installmental payment to them. The benefit of this strategy is that you don't have to go through the medical mutilation that happens when you go when you go to a bank. No shade if there are any lenders here in the audience, but if you have ever gone through underwriting for a loan, you know that at least for me at the time, whatever I could do to avoid all that, I would rather. So now when you do seller financing, you can negotiate anything that you like, okay? And the seller, of course, agrees to, right? So in this particular case, he wanted us to have enough skin in the game, so fine. We did 20% down, which is probably what a lender will probably have wanted, either 20 or 25%. But we did 25% down, and he did a 5% interest rate, which at the time was about typical. Yeah. And but then what we did was that it was a 5-year, it was amortized. So amortization is basically how the loan is broken down for the monthly payments. It was amortized for about 20 years. So it was nicely spread out as if we're going to pay it across 20 years. Okay. But because I'm dealing with the seller, we're able to construct something that actually worked for the two of us. We said, listen, in 5 years, the loan is due. So this means that in 5 years, I either sell the property and pay the seller all the full amount, or I actually go to a real bank and I refinance the property and I get the seller his full money in 5 years. So I basically had 5 years to figure out the property, maybe fix it up, maybe do whatever, and give the seller what he eventually wants. Because he was like, I'm good. So now we have that property now. We still own it. We are trying to sell it right now, but it served, I mean, it has basically stayed in our portfolio these few months. But now when the pandemic hit, it exposed a very different side of New York and real estate. Okay. But at about the same time, at this point, I had now started coaching doctors and getting started in real estate. Yeah. Okay. And I noticed at the time that doctors were looking for ways to get cash flow, higher cash flow. Okay. So I started looking for strategies that had significantly higher cash flow. And that's what will now lead us into phase 3. But before we do phase 3, we'll pause for questions, comments, and what you want to talk about, Chichi.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so many gems, so many gems. What I love
come
about
with pen and paper.
Come with pen and paper, you guys. So one of the things I love about phase 2 is there's this growth of your confidence as an investor, which a lot of people don't have. A lot of people are still playing it safe. A lot of people are still sort of pigeonholed into a single family property. I'm going to do one deal at a time. I'm going to try to, have all my money, all my ducks in a row. And hopefully if you are on this call, what you've learned is that's you can throw that out of the water. Again, still do your due diligence, still make sure the deal works for you, but there are lots of ways to generate the initial investment money. One, go to the seller. If they're motivated enough, they will sell. And be observant. I mean, I'm the kind of person who, I know my city, I know my neighborhoods, I'm looking on Zillow as well. I know certain regions, even if I'm not in that state, I know the area well enough that I can see changes and I can see a good deal. My neighbor, as soon as I saw trash on the road, I knew they're about to sell. So I walked in and I asked some questions, and lo and behold, they were wanting to sell. So make sure that you're making those deals work for you. But I do want to pause. I see some of the same questions. I know people are salivating before we get into phase 3. One prevailing question that has come up is, how do you find those deals? How do you find those motivated sellers? You mentioned divorce, people with unfortunately deaths in their families, or for sale by owners. How do you skip the long line of other investors who are clamming for deals and go straight to the source? What's your top advice for that? And I think we'll answer that question first. Yeah. Thank you, Dami, for raising that question.
That's a great question. So the first thing I think you've already mentioned, which is basically keep your eyes open. Be a curious observer, a curious investor. You see something that is like, that's interesting. Go in there and ask. Okay? If you don't ask, you will never know, right? Somebody tells you, oh my goodness, my aunt's sisters, whatever, is having to leave town because blah, blah, blah just happened. And you're like, oh, really? I know she owns that, apartment complex down the street. Like, is she trying to sell it, Literally ask that question. Just 2 days ago, I was talking with my property manager, because now I'm sourcing for businesses, okay? So I was talking with my property manager, and I just had this urge, like, ask him if he knows anybody. And I was like, hey, Sean, like, do you know anybody that's trying to like sell a business or something? And he looked at me and he goes, yeah. And I'm like, oh, there you go, God, again. So he tells me of someone that he thinks is in a position to sell their business. And right there and then he tells me the person's number from memory. And I'm like, you must know this person really well. So I walk out, I save that number on my phone. I walk into my car and I was like, Chiagozie, are you going to really let this like wait until later? I sat right there. I called the guy right there in the car before I took off, because I knew I was like, I may just let this kind of slide. And this was just such a, like a ask him type of urge. I called the guy. I literally met with the man and his wife yesterday, and they do have a business they're trying to sell. So it's the same thing. Number one, as you're driving around, the driving for dollar strategy, that is one. if you see a place with like tall grass, a full mailbox, I used to say window ACs until I came into New York, where window ACs are still a thing. But if you're in any state where window ACs are obsolete and you see a window AC, then chances are it's an old house, right? If you see, if you're in a place where it snowed and it snowed last week, but the snow in that property is still like fresh and untouched, it tells you that the house is vacant, right? Because if anybody was going in and out, there would have been, it'd have messed up. Now, any indicators that either the place is vacant or distressed, your next step then is to find the owner's information. I've already given you one tool, which is called Deal Machine. Okay, if you're driving around with your Deal Machine on, so you can literally just tap the property and all that info comes up. Another one is called PropStream. And I actually have affiliate links for all these things, but I don't have them on here right now. So you can that's just like free advertisement for them, right? But PropStream, you can go on PropStream. These are paid tools, by the way. So this is not like freebie stuff, but do you want it or not, right? So you pay for it. And on PropStream, it will surprise you what you can get on PropStream. Like, I can find, if you just give me your address and I will tell you where you live. I'll tell you what you live in, how much you owe, when you bought the property. It'll blow your mind how much information you can find in the public domain when you pay about the owner. So you find a property that looks like it, it could be passed on. Number 2, you find the owner. And then number 3, you contact the owner. How do you contact the owner? You can call them. You can send them mail. Sometimes all you find is the name of the owner. You can skip, it's called skip tracing. So you normally have to pay for skip tracing, okay? But if you skip trace them, you find all their info, you can reach them in multiple ways. And then the 4th thing you do is you rinse and repeat. Now remember, the apartment complex guy, he was probably out of town, but he probably called me when he got the 3rd mailer from me. But here's the thing, I wasn't sitting around writing on hand like, Mr. Seller, get me your house. No, one button, and I set it to automatically send. So they charged me every month, but they sent it to him on the clock. So when he got it the 3rd time, he probably figured, okay, this person is actually serious. Because we all get all the mailers, right? Do you want to sell your house? I want to buy. But when you get from the same person on a house that you're actually possibly maybe thinking of potentially selling, you call them back. It's a human to human thing. It's not anything like, out there. It's literally connecting with a fellow human that could be in distress. Now, here's the thing, okay? So sometimes when I teach on this thing, and I say, death, divorce, all these things, people are like, oh, wait a minute. I don't want to like, capitalize on their pain. No, you're not capitalizing on their pain. You're potentially solving a real problem. Do you know what it is to carry a property that you don't want? You're paying taxes. You don't want to even go to the property, right? Like I have a property right now that if properties could sell in a day, I'd have sold that thing a long time ago. But then, it takes a little time to even sell property. So it's like, there's a guy that has been trying to like buy it from me, but even the time to go show him the property, I'm like, I don't even want to go there right now, right? So if you find someone, for example, who inherited a property and they absolutely hate the property, like it was in this guy's case, like the guy that sold me the 7 unit, he said he's had the property for 30 years, but his kids wanted none of it. Okay, so imagine if he had passed away and the kids now by default inherited a property that they actually did not want. Me coming in and saying, hey, I see you have this property. Do you want it or would you like to sell it? All the way, hands up, they would absolutely tell me, just take this thing off my hands. I don't want anything to actually do with it. Okay, so when you approach a seller asking about, buying their property, keep it in mind that you may actually be there as a solution provider. And so your job is to identify what pain that they're in so that you can figure out which strategy you can prescribe. Okay, so I've given you one strategy, which is seller financing, right? Because that way they can save on taxes by spreading out the payment. But there are other things you can do, like it's called like lease option, where you basically like lease the property from them instead of buying it outright upfront, but with the option to buy it at a specified price. So you're basically renting, and then you can put another renter in there at a higher price and profit from the spread. There you need no banks at all, okay? One very famous strategy that people use with that strategy is called arbitrage, which is where you basically lease a property, turn it into a short-term rental, make more money, but I'll get into that in phase 3. But I'm just saying that, like, when you talk to the seller and identify what their actual pain point is the pain point that they can't handle the mortgage? Is the pain point that they can't, deal with the property anymore? Is the pain point that, like, identify what their pain point is and then see how you can creatively solve the problem. The beautiful thing is, once you get into this creative strategy, there are no rules. It's basically what you and the seller, there are some common strategies that people teach about, and so they teach creative financing. But honestly, truly creative financing is exactly what it is, creative. It takes the situation at hand. So there's a diagnostic phase, what is the problem? And then there's a solutions phase, how do we fix it?
Love it. Oh my goodness. And I think that answers your question, Dr. Kemi, which is, what are some different vehicles for third-party financing? And I think Dr. Fawole just kind of talked about that, hard money loans. She talked about lease options, anything you can really create, as long as it's legal and it's acceptable by the other party, that is creative financing. So, there's crowdfunding, like she mentioned, you can give people a stake in the property valuation and profits and things like that. She also talked about that with her first deal with the 12-unit property that I was a part of. And so making sure that the deal works for you is quite literally going to the drawing board, diagnosing, right? You have to do the due diligence. You are the initiator, right? You are the investor. Going back to the drawing board, we've also talked here about different kinds of loans, leveraging if you have a veteran in your family or a connection, inviting a veteran to the deal because they have, better options for lease, for financing options. There are also ways to get better terms on loans, right? You have just anything you can think of that is a way for creative financing. And so making sure that we're really not limiting ourselves. And that's the thing. A lot of times as investors, we limit ourselves to the banks. And again, we have some finance people in the house. We have some people in banks, much love to you. But their primary strategy as well is profit. And so we just have to make better profit with less risk than the banks. And that's the name of the game. So I want to hand it back over to Dr. Fawole. I know she can share a little bit more about third-party financing and other vehicles.
Yeah. So we touched on the first strategy, which was literally just other people having other investors in your deal, right? So for that 12-unit apartment complex, I actually gave them part ownership of that property. The second one that you mentioned there, Kemi, is hard money loans. So hard money loans can either be from hard money like lender companies or private individuals who lend you money for a decent interest rate. Like currently, for the last deals that we got, we literally got like, and put it out there and offer people like 10 to 12%, depending on what they gave. And that was literally how we're able to close on them. Now, there are some properties that banks will not fund. Okay, so this is not a anti-bank, type conversation. If the property needs work, a bank will not fund you, okay, for the most part. So you need to have other ways of generating the same amount of money, of like cash, to be able to close on the property. Then you can fix up the property, and then the bank will say, okay, bring it on, let's fund it. One that I wanted to make sure that I mentioned, since we're talking creative financing here, is called subject to. Okay, this is where you don't actually like get a new mortgage, but instead you acquire the property subject to the existing financing. Okay, so basically taking over the current owner's mortgage. Okay, so somebody has a house, the mortgage is like too much for them. They can't handle it. They need to leave town. They just got married. They had to move. They can't handle 2 mortgages in 2 different cities. You can say, hey, listen, I can take over your payments as long as you're okay with it. And some people may say, well, who will do that? What if you default? What if? You can ask all the what ifs in the world, or you can get the deal done, right? People in enough pain, people who actually need a solution will be willing to take on that. Now, I mention these things so that you can now go to the YouTubes, go to, Pace Morby talks a lot about subject to. There are tons of, influencers out there that talk about all these things, but I'm mentioning them so you even know what to Google, because if you don't know what to Google, you can't even find it. So lease options is number one, is one of them. Subject to is another one. Syndications or partnerships, right, is one. Seller financing is another.
Oh my goodness, I love it. I want to give you time for phase 3, but I know we are almost at time. And maybe about 3 to 4 minutes, if you can share the exciting new vista that God has you and your family on. I'm so excited for your journey, because I know what it took to get here. So if you can kind of share phase 3 really quickly, because I want to encourage those who may be seasoned investors. I know there's some of them in the room. Just to, again, we're all about growth mindset here in this webinar, right? How did you embark on the growth mindset that you are currently on for the next stage of your business and your portfolios, plural? So go ahead and share, and then we can get into the Q&A proper.
All right, so phase 3, like I said, at the time I had started coaching doctors on started in real estate. And one thing that would often come up in conversations was, I need to leave my job like in 3 months. And I'm like, girl, that's not me. I don't know what you can do to leave your job in 3 months. But I was like, but real estate is so versatile, there has to be something. And so when I kind of looked around, I came across the strategy, which is called rental arbitrage, which I just described, which is basically where you lease a property or rent a property from a landlord and then turn the property into a short-term rental. Now, a short-term rental are like your Airbnbs, right? Now, newsflash, they make a ton of money, okay? So basically, let's say a landlord will rent a house for, let's say, $900, or an apartment or whatever for $900. That same property as a short-term rental could make like $2,500 a month. So now the difference between the $900 plus your expenses, so let's just say $1,200, and the $2,500 becomes your pocket change, okay? So initially I was going to do it, and then I, had all this, life drama. But eventually when I did, we were able to get 10 of those in 3 months, okay? 10 in 3 months. I was like, whoa. And when I saw my highest grossing month at the time, I was like, all right, I need to get the word out about this, because this actually works. So now I go out there in the internet streets and I'm talking like short-term rentals, these things work. And I start noticing that like a number of doctors were also doing short-term rentals, but they were buying their property. So I said, you know what, let's just host a conference about this. So I did. And while I was interviewing the doctors for that conference, people were telling me about the tax advantages of actually owning your own short-term rental. And I was like, wait a minute. I thought I was trying to like help people get cash flow with the arbitrage, which was great. Because you imagine if each unit that you have nets you $1K a month. Having 10 of those, you just got yourself a pocket that could make you $10K a month, just saying, right? But when I heard about the tax advantages of actually buying the short-term rental, I was like, sold. I have my way of generating cash flow with my other business. I need to start building generational assets with luxury short-term rentals. Now, quick story, and I know we have less than a minute before we go to Q&A. In one of our rental properties, the dog chased my daughter. It was a scary day, okay? But thank God she wasn't hurt. But I just thought, Now, come in now, the luxury short-term rentals that my friend now introduced me to while I was interviewing them. Now we have the Doris that I told you about earlier, the place that I can now go that the family actually loves, no dogs included, right? The properties are bigger, the properties are finer, the properties are nicely decorated. People come and they pay you before they get there, right? And if they, if they overstay or whatever, you can lock the door because you have electronic locks, right? Right? And you can get into them for less than a regular rental property. You can get into them for 10% down instead of the 20 to 25% that you use for the long-term rentals. So when I tell you I was sold, I was so sold. The last long-term rental that we bought was in 2020. I haven't bought another one since then, okay? Now we are primarily focused on short-term rentals. And as a matter of fact, this year we closed on a handful of them. And one of them has actually wants us to sell, and here's his reason: it's not lakefront. Okay, I was like, no, but the lake is like right, like you can like squint your eyes and see the lake. He's like, nah, let's sell it. It's not lakefront, because now we're like so hyper focused. It's like we don't need to like rack up so many properties. Let's just buy things that we actually think are valuable in the very long term, and that's why we're buying lakefront properties now.
So amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Fawole. So you heard phase 1, you heard phase 2, and you heard phase 3, which is sort of the shift into luxury short-term rentals. We've covered some of that in a previous webinar. Another pro tip, you can also start where you are, which is in your own backyard. If you have a ton of space, if you have an abandoned garage, if you have something, there's a way to always turn what you have into more, right? So I want to open it up for Q&A. We've had a lot of engagement already in the chat and so on and so forth. So this is a question from Geraldo. He said he's already into investment, which is amazing. Congratulations, Geraldo. He wants to know how you built your team. So how you find handymen, different things like that. And I want to piggyback off of that with Brother Adulua's question from earlier as well, which is, what are the key professionals on your team? How do they fit into your system? And then tacking on Geraldo's question, how do you find these people, especially if you're investing in a market that's not your own direct city?
Yeah. So when we got started with rental arbitrage, we actually did it down in Dallas, Texas. Till today, I never saw those rentals until we closed them down eventually. Okay. So I had to learn team building, like remote team building, to get that done. Where do I find them? My favorite method of finding team members is word of mouth. So when we first moved to Syracuse, New York, I found my inspector, found my contractor, found, yeah, those two key people. I found them through my realtor. How did I find the realtor? Zillow. I just went on Zillow and I just clicked around and somehow found, you know, someone that looked like she looked decent. And I tried her out and I actually liked her, and I still have her up to, I still work with her up till now. But yeah, so I find a word of mouth to be the best, like personal recommendations from existing investors is my favorite. Now, if you don't know anyone, then you have to go the Google route, okay? So you just go on Google, you know, type in whatever name it is. And my recommendation would be to find at least 3. So you can talk to multiple, interview them, ask them the key and pertinent questions. It's not like, you know, what font is your website written in? That's the least of your problems. They can have a beautiful website and be horrible on the back end. Want to ask them like key operational questions that will actually get you the result that you want. And then the next tip is, if they don't work out, fire them quickly. Okay, that was the lesson that we learned 1 year after we should have. Okay, and it cost us a full year of revenue from from 2 properties. So fire them quickly. If it's not working out, fire them. And if you have to rehire them, you can rehire them, which we have in the right setting. The second thing is for team members that I've done is going on local Facebook groups. So it's usually like moms groups or dads groups for like the area. There you would often find, you know, people who know people. Like so when we were in Dallas, I found my assistant through one of those groups. I joined a Dallas moms Facebook group, and I was like, hey, you know, my sister and I are trying to build this whole Airbnb empire. Not with those words. And I put like a nice, you know, beautiful like Airbnb-esque type picture, and people were like commenting like, oh, me. I'm like, DM me or whatever. And I actually interviewed a bunch of them. Turned out that the first person that I interviewed was an amazing fit. I still interviewed the others, but she was an amazing fit. And we worked together for at least a year, if not a year and a half. But yeah, interview them, screen them, ask the pertinent questions. Like if there's something that you need to happen for them to succeed, ask the question like, do you have a car? Do you have flexibility? I'm going to need someone to check the property at random times during the day or night. Are you open to that? And if they don't, you know, if they look like they're great, but they can't fit those things, you let it be. You find more.
That's so great. And what do you think is the minimum team that you need? Like, what are the minimum number of members of your team, and who would those people be? Obviously, a handyman, so nobody's calling you at 2 a.m. because that's the whole point, right? Of being an investor is your time freedom. Obviously, a cleaner, hopefully, if if you're doing short-term rentals. But for those who are doing long-term investments and short-term rentals, what would you say the minimum number of members are?
Hey Jen, thank you. So I usually don't even think of it as a team, because I've had people say, well, I'm building my team so I can't get started. I'm like, girl, how are you doing that? Like, you need to start to get the team. Like, how are you going to get the team without the thing to actually do it? So it's like walking side by side, right? But what I think of it is just, who do you need and what do you need them for? Like you said, if it's a short-term rental, one key person you need is a housekeeper, right? So as I'm closing on the short-term rental, I am at about the same time identifying who's gonna clean it, right? Like you said, a handyman, or like I call it a runner, actually. So I don't have like a literal handyman yet on our official team. There's no such thing as really a team right here. It's just like people that we call, right? But our neighbor at the Doris property, right, actually has turned out to be an amazing human. Like, literally, guests will call and say, oh, the oven is doing this, or the AC, and we're like, would you please run over, see the place, whatever, Bill? So a runner, somebody that can like go check on things, who can then call the electrician, that can call the plumber, that can call the other people. Yeah, for short-term rentals, those are the two key people that you need. A handyman, having a handyman on kind of like on your on speed dial is also pretty helpful. But I think that the absolute key people that you need are housekeeper and a runner.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So the floor is officially open for Q&A. I had a private question come in, which is, you talked a lot about your successes, and you also talked about some of the kind of barriers that you had, right? Some properties were not fundable by banks, and so you had to find those creative strategies. But are there any other real barriers that you remember, like actual challenges that you remember, or low points in your journey, and how did you surmount them, right? So this is more of like looking back, lessons learned. How can we learn from any mistakes you may have made? If we can call it that, everything is good. And you also mentioned one, fire people early if it's really not working out. So what are some other challenges that you had along the real estate journey?
Let me make sure that you guys get this straight, okay? This has not been a cakewalk. I know some of you are like, yeah, okay, fine, you're a doctor though, but like the whole money thing, like, please, right? I literally did not have the money, so let's just leave that there. But in terms of like things actually happening, let's even just go back to the Winchester property, Chichi. That property burned. It literally caught fire. I was at work one day on call, and I got a call from my realtor that told us the house 3 years prior. And he's like, yeah, I just got a call. I think your apartment is on fire. And I was like, what? Turns out like all the tenants had to leave for a space of at least maybe 3 months or something. Thankfully, we had the appropriate insurance on board that was able to, replace. And thank God, because I was new, right? So God really literally helped me to have gotten the right amount of insurance that was able to basically rebuild the entire thing. Like, the place looked amazingly new by the time they were done. So make sure you carry the proper insurance. That's number one. I've learned that I'm not skimping on insurance. Short-term rental insurance is actually more expensive than long-term rentals. I pay it, okay? Because I've now experienced it, that properties can burn. A tenant set that one on fire. We'll figure, okay? What else have we experienced? Contractor issues. So back, I think it was 2018, when we had the 2 properties that we closed on back in 2017, we had the same contractor, and we figured, you know what? We could actually have the same contractor do both of them, and so that he can basically use the same resources across the 2. By the time he finished with one of them, after a while, he just bailed. We still don't know where he is to this day. So we had to call somebody to kind of do the last part of it. Oh, and then of course the pandemic hit, okay? the pandemic hit, and then New York basically decided that somehow me paying for people's housing was like my civic responsibility, right? Because while they had the moratorium on evictions, they were still sending us things to either fix or repair or do whatever on the properties that we had. And I was like, how does this even work? So that put such a bad taste in our mouth about New York and long-term rentals now that if I tell you that I buy short-term rentals now, I'm not even kidding. Okay. If you have like, there are days that I'm like, would I buy a long-term rental? I'm like, I probably will. But will it be in New York? I don't know about that because I don't know. I'm not saying never, because who knows, maybe someone here has a 47-unit apartment complex that they happen to just want to hand off. I'll consider. But you have to convince Tony as well, because he's like, that was the day that I said, oh, he has an eight unit building, and he's like, but that's 8 tenants. And I was like, oh, he doesn't want tenants. Yeah. So understanding the culture of the city you're investing in as it relates to landlords. Do they favor landlords or tenants? Like Texas will favor the landlord. New York will favor the tenants. Just understanding that sort of culture of the landscape to know what you buy. Okay.
And it depends on your risk tolerance, right?
Yeah.
So, again, you have to make the deals work for you. Thank you so much for that. I actually had a private question come in. People are so invested in your story and in your journey, and they want to ask, so about your, med school student loans and all of that good stuff.
Yeah.
Are you paid off? Where are you along that journey? And if you can kind of whisper some encouragement to those in the group who have student loans, that would be great.
So as you can see, with me coaching doctors about real estate, that's a question that comes up a lot, because they're like, I have all these student loans. Should I finish paying them off or should I invest? And the politician's answer is, of course, it depends, right? What are you able to sleep with? If you're the kind of person that says, I have debt, I cannot sleep, then please go ahead and do that. But actually, I'll actually probably move you to talk with a different friend of mine who helps with like money mindset and all that kind of stuff issues. Because here's the thing. When you got, in my case, getting debt was a blessing in my life. Okay, and this is not every debt. This is like the particular debt that people are really worried about, which is student loan debt. When I was about to get into medical school, I could not, because I was an international student, and they specifically wanted me to put down $250,000 in escrow, which I did not have. But the miracle in my life back in 2008 was that on May 27th, I got a letter saying that I was, long story short, I was now qualified to get a loan. So being able to get a loan was a blessing, okay? So 7 years later, 10 years later, that has not changed. So I'm not gonna now think of my debt as like a crazy burden. I basically just I'm paying up my student loans just the same amount, clockwork. I haven't accelerated it. When I have extra, cash just lying around, I'll probably dump it into it, right? But if I can make my money work for me more in other places, here's the other thing. When I started, I didn't have any money. So I wasn't even using my debt repayment money to invest. I was using other people's money to invest and then using my own money to pay off debt. So the two can literally walk side by side, however it is that you feel comfortable. Now, this is different from consumer debt. Okay, this is student loan debt that we're talking here, just to be very clear.
Yeah, and one of the things I want to mention is find a professional that can help you consolidate your debt and negotiate your terms, right? So depending, I actually have a professional that I work with that teaches a master class on maximizing your financial potential. And, one of the biggest things that she taught me and that I've learned over time is you have to be a knowledgeable, you have to be the biggest advocate for yourself. You need to find out all your debt, quite literally lay it out, which has the highest percentages, which has this, which has this. There was a particular debt that I wanted to pay off. And this professional, who also is my tax professional, said, no, that makes no sense for you to pay off that debt. It's the lowest percentage. It's actually shielding you from everything else. So in fact, don't even touch it. Literally like clockwork, pay it off, just the minimum. I mean, we have crazy, inflation, pay off this. And so I have zero debt in every other area of my life, except this one where the interest rates are so low that it's quite literally saving me money, if you can think about it. So every other cash flow that I have, I invest that and I keep that debt because it's wise debt. And so not every debt is bad is really the take home there. And I made sure to make this this private question public because this question is so near and dear to my heart. And I think this will be, oh, more private questions are coming in. Okay, we're going to take 2 more and then we are officially going to close the session, but Dr. Fawole will still be on if we can borrow a few more minutes of your time and continue to answer questions. So second to last question is for the young investors in the room. How early is too early to start? I'm going to jump in before Dr. Fawole jumps in. You can start as early as you can. And I actually encourage those in college, right after college, before grad school, in grad school, right after grad school. It's the best time to invest. And here's the strategy before Dr. Fawole jumps in. Find as many scholarships as you can. I tell people, even if you have a full ride, apply for scholarships. Get as much money as you can. And rather than waste that money, invest it. Invest it in real estate, invest it in different portfolios. Make sure you're making your money work for you. So if you are in college, it's not too early to invest if you know what you're doing, or partner with someone who knows what they're doing to make sure that your money is working for you. So I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Fawole because I too am curious on her answer. So my first deal was in grad school. I looked at the cost of student housing, and it just did not make sense for me to pay about $1,500 a month for a matchbox. And I thought I could do better, and God agreed. And so I just want to encourage you, it's never too early to start if you know what you're doing and you have a seasoned strategy. So Dr. Fawole, any additional thoughts on that?
So one thing that I think I forgot to mention is that between my epiphany of 60K, more than my salary, and my first deal, that was an entire year, okay? Now, what happened in the entire year is probably the most understated thing, which was I spent time learning what I was doing, okay? The reason that I say that is if you are in college right now, if you are young, if you feel that, you know what, spend time learning and then doing, because what I did eventually in 2016, I could have done in 2007 if I knew what I was doing, right? Because I literally just found a deal and I found people that had money and I found a realtor and I put the deal, I found all that and I put the deal together and we owned it. So you can do that too. But the only way that the people felt confident giving me their money was because they had seen that I had invested the time in getting the knowledge and understanding. So your age doesn't matter. I mean, 14-year-olds do this, okay? Okay, your age is actually irrelevant. Yes, you will look at, I mean, when I went to talk with a realtor back then, I was 27 and I thought he'll probably think like, who's this 27-year-old trying to come by, you know, a 12-unit apartment complex? But we did. So like the age whole thing is like is relative, right? Because some people see me and say, oh my gosh, you're so young. And I was like, yeah, but compared to when I started and even those that I see right now, I'm like, psh. But spend the time learning, invest in your learning. And when I say invest, I don't necessarily mean pay money. My investment, I didn't have money, remember, right? So it was literally being on the forums, Bigger Pockets forums. I was there, like that was my Facebook for like an entire year. I didn't care about Facebook like during that year. Podcasts, listen to as many real estate podcasts as you can get into your day, when you're driving, when you're doing dishes, when you're working out, if you have, you know, whatever, listen to that was literally how I started. I didn't start with the course myself because I couldn't afford a course at the time. Okay, if you can afford a course, that it'll help kind of, you know, make that time a little less than 1 year, you know what I'm saying? But if you can't afford any of the courses or masterminds or all these big things, do the groundwork, find the forums, read. Oh my goodness, before that year, I had barely read any book outside of medicine. That year, I read 14 books, which was a ton for me at the time, okay? Audiobooks. Audible has a $14.99 subscription that every month you get a book. Use that alone. Just pay $14.99 a month. That is less than a takeout meal. And it'll get you a good book that could literally get you into hundreds of thousands of dollars in wealth.
Thank you so much for that. And this question also came in from a very young person as well. And the question was, what are ways that a non-national can overcome hurdles in the real estate world, whether it's entry, whether it's sustainability? So I'm guessing this is a non-US citizen who is wanting to start the real estate journey.
Yeah. So one thing so far is that I haven't learned any markets outside of the United States. So I usually kind of preface things by saying that. That said, everything that I just described, like for example, the whole Dallas arbitrage thing, I could have been anywhere in the world and done that. Okay, like, because I never saw the places. Now, I had to find people on ground to help me with that. But I just told you, I joined a Facebook group, a mom's Facebook group. So sometimes you need boots on the ground people, but you can advertise for those things. Okay, you need cash. If you have cash, you need cash. If you need credit, you need a way to overcome the credit thing. Now, there are lenders that will lend to foreign nationals. You may need to put more money down. Okay, you may need to actually have more money down, but they would lend. The third thing is the different creative strategies that I just described. Anybody can do them. I actually have a guy that I followed for a little while. Where is he? I forget where he is, but I don't think he's United States. I think he's in Canada, and I don't even know if he barely had a social security number until like probably recently, and he has like millions of dollars of American real estate, creatively financed. He actually does this with like hotels, because it's the same problems that people that own $5 million hotels have that those that have 50K properties have. So you can pick which end of the spectrum you want to be in. I choose the bigger ones at this point. When you find a deal that's big enough that other people can fit in it, you can actually get your deals done a little easier.
Oh my goodness. So thank you so much for that. I want to officially stop there. I know we have a raffle to get to, but while we are setting up that raffle, I wonder if you can tell people where to find you. A lot of people want to connect to you. And also, I know you have a free gift for us. So if you can share how people can take advantage. One of the things that, I wanted to ask Dr. Fawole as she was coming on is she always comes with the best gifts. And so I said, is there something you can drop for us that you can create? Again, she teaches physicians, she does a whole bunch, but I said, what is it that you can offer our YAYA Academy group? And she said, I got you. I'm going to put something together that's very specific. So she's going to share with you some of the tools that she talked about on how to find a good deal, how to do your due diligence. She is actually going to share how you can take advantage of that. So Dr. Fawole, tell people how they can find you afterwards, connect to you, and also please feel free to drop the free gift.
Yeah, so today we talked a lot about our, like the journey, right? And the reason that I told you that I wanted to kind of share those stories is that those tend to stick in people's minds a little more. Like if I sat here and I said, here are 5 different ways of doing it, it's really like a, death by PowerPoint, right? But with the stories, they'll stick better. But one of the things we did not get to, right, in all of this was how to even evaluate a deal to know if it's a good deal or not, like the numbers, right? So I figured that the free gift will be to our cash flow calculator, okay? Because remember, when you buy a property, it's not just the mortgage that you're paying. There is a whole list of things that you need to make sure that you're accounting for before you buy the property so that you don't buy a money pit. And so what I did was I put together our cash flow calculator, okay? And you can use this same calculator for, now, a lot of what I do these days, like I said, I've particularly tuned primarily to short-term rental. So a lot of what I do is kind of very short-term rental leaning, but my friend, coach, mentor, pastor, friend, whatever you want to call her, Neka, had kind of asked me to have a long-term rental calculator as well. So I was like, fine. So y'all can thank her for that. So in the gift that you're going to get 3 calculators, okay? Not just 1, but 3. You get a calculator on the spreadsheet that can help you evaluate a short-term rental. So that one includes things like the cleaning fee, the insurance, the supplies, all the extra things I need to factor in. Then you get a calculator for short-term rental by arbitrage, okay? That's the method that I said you can rent a property and then turn it into a short-term rental. So you can get you have a calculator that does that as well, okay? It's one spreadsheet that has 3 tabs. So when you open it, just know that there are 3 tabs, like 3 whatever, worksheets or whatever, so you can click on them. And then the third calculator there is for long-term rental. So if you want to buy a 50-unit apartment complex, it's simply a matter of plugging in all the rents on one side and putting it in, and then putting in all the other numbers that fit into those things, like your advertising costs, your utilities, right? All those things, okay? Now, those are your 3 options. So whichever one you want to get, you have a calculator there. Dr. Chichi has put the link in the chat. And when you put in your information or whatever, it gets into our system. You will get an email. The calculator is going to be, the link to the calculator is going to be in the email that you receive afterwards, okay? And then I also had to throw in an extra little gift for those who want that, but I will not say it on live. You will actually have to see it after you get the calculator, but that's my gift to you. Now, where can you find me? Most times I'm on Facebook. I do have a hint of an Instagram presence, but it's like crickets over there. If you DM me on Instagram, I will not respond for like 5 months. But if you get me on Facebook, just type in Chiagozie Fawole. I think I'm the only one in the world because it's an Igbo name and a Yoruba name together. So Chiagozie Fawole. You will find 2 profiles for me. Find the one that has me in like kind of braids, not the one with the pink background. Or you can friend both of them. You can friend both of them and I'll get them. But I'll most likely respond to you in the one that has me in like braids. So, and I can put that link in the chat because I think I actually remember it. And then of course, LinkedIn, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm beginning to kind of touche up my LinkedIn page for like consulting stuff. So you can find me on LinkedIn as well. Yes, that's the link. Thank you.
Yeah, so I have dropped both things in the chat. So that is her maiden name. So don't be confused. She is happily married, but click that link on Facebook to find her. And she is super responsive, guys. I don't know how she does it. She has kids, a family, she works, and she teaches physicians how to gain wealth. So this has been amazing. So without further ado, we want to leave you wanting more for the next webinar. So we just want to, as we again share the screen to do the raffle, can you just drop a comment or 2 about what you learned from this webinar? Any insight that you got from Dr. Fawole, from the Q&A and all of that, if you can, please drop something in the chat or just let Dr. Fawole know how much this session meant to you, and just let Yaya Academy, some of our leaders are here. Please let us know how you enjoyed the session. What's one actionable item you are going to take from this webinar? What are you going to do next, right? So you've gotten great information. Dr. Fawole mentioned that as soon as she got the contact information of someone, she sat in the car immediately and reached out. So what one thing are you going to do immediately? Thank you so much, Eddie. I see, or Etiosa, I see, get started. Thank you for the opportunity. Thanks for sharing how to find off-market deals. Thank you so much. I'm gonna look into subject financing. I love it. It was a great session. Thank you so much for that feedback. I'm gonna get the book by Brandon Turner. Yes, absolutely. I'm gonna spend more time learning. So connect to her. That's a very quick actionable item that you can do. Click the link, get the free gift. And so I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen so that we can do the raffle. Because we have amazing, savvy people in the audience, we're gonna make it as transparent as possible. So I am going to share the screen of those who were here in the early bird. You can see that there if find your name. And so what I'm going to do is, so these are the people that are eligible for the raffle. Thank you again for showing up. About 23 of you were here 15 minutes before the session started because you could not wait. So I am going to stop sharing, and then I'm going to share how we are going to pick the winner. Again, you have to be present to win. So, you know, be praying if someone is not here, you know, you might be the next person on the list. So there are 23 eligible candidates, and I'm going to share my screen. So we are going to use something called a random number generator. It's effectively the same thing as, you know, just putting some raffle tickets and shuffling it. So here it is. We're going to get the number. So the first person is number 2, and number 2 on that list was Jayola Olusoji. Are you here? If so, can you just put something in the chat saying, I'm here. Thank you for the gift, and we will let you know how to win that $50 Amazon gift card. Jayola Olusoji, are you here?
Ayomide Olusoji is here saying I'm here.
Are you Jayola? I don't know.
I don't
Are you the
think
same
so.
person?
Yeah.
Yes.
The person saying I'm here is Ayomide Olusoji.
Okay, but are you, it was specific to
Yeah,
Jayola.
Jayola Olusoji.
Okay, so I think it's a different person because there was a specific name.
No,
Yeah,
no,
Jayola
no,
Olusoji.
no. That was my middle name. I changed my name during the seminar.
Okay. Let me discuss with my team members. Please let me know in the chat or privately how to navigate this. If not, we will give it to the next person on the list. I don't want to recount the votes, but the votes are there. Everything is right there. So let me know if we should give it to Ayomide. So Ayomide, stick around. And Ruth, are you here? Stick around as well and let us know in the chat if you are here. But without further ado, I do want to thank Dr. Fawole. Yes, so my team members have confirmed. Ayomide, congratulations. Thank you so much for being here. Can you hear me, Ayomide?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, congratulations. You are the one as chosen by our team. So congratulations. And thank you so much for being with us. So we do have one announcement before we go. So as we said,
I think you lost vocals there. The audio.
Yeah, I think Dr. Chichi, in case you can hear me, I think we lost your audio there. So I'll just jump in if you're there. We do have just a very quick announcement on the YAYA Academy. We do have a session September the 10th from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Let's pray. So we'd appreciate it. Again, you know, as we all know, everything that we've learned and everything we're learning, everything is subject to the wisdom and the knowledge that we know that God has in store for us to lean into. So would appreciate it if you can join. We're going to be putting it in the in the chat right away. And again, if you needed more details, you can just send us an email from the one that we had put earlier, also from the chat. It's Let's Pray, and it's on September the 10th, 2023, from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Dr. Chichi, are you back? I just want to round up here. All right. So once again, we just, thank every single person. And again, I do apologize. I know we've gone over time, but honestly, there was so much insightful knowledge that we gained. And this is an indicator that clearly there's a lot of, there was a lot of excitement and a lot of engagement. We will do our very best. We'll probably have to review with the team here, whether maybe we might need to extend the time. And if we're ever having Dr. Fawole coming back, it definitely won't be an hour. We probably might need a half a day to be able to get into things here. But once again, Dr. Fawole, we really appreciate your time. Thank you for the insight. Pray that God will continue to bless you in your business. And every other person here, we hope that you will join us on future sessions. We're really excited for what we do. We know that there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of things in store that God wants to do through his kingdom in the area of real estate and many other areas. And we just want to have an opportunity to be able to do that in a safe, encouraging environment through this platform within YAYA. So I'll hand it over once again to Pastor Sunday to just give us a closing prayer, and then we'll have everyone be on their way to enjoy their long weekends. Pastor Sunday.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Fawole. It's been an amazing time. Tons and tons of information. We're so grateful for your life. Thank you for creating time to be able to educate us on what we need to do to be able to get to where God wants us to be. Thank you for my team, and thank you for Dr. Chichi. Thank you for Brother Deolua. Thank you for Brother Kayode. Really appreciate everyone. And I know that everything that we've learned, we'll be able to implement it. That's the key word. We need to execute. And hopefully we'll be able to achieve our objectives in Jesus' name. Okay, so let's go ahead and pray. Our Father and our God, we are so grateful for this wonderful time. Thank you for how you've been able to teach us what we need to know to be able to advance our lives. We are grateful for the opportunity. We thank you for each and every one of us. We thank you for Dr. Fawole. We thank you for all the audience. We are grateful for the hand of grace upon each and every one of us. We ask, Lord, that we will not just be the hearer alone, but we be executors of everything that you have taught us today. That your name alone be magnified. We pray for grace for each and every one of us to be able to use this so that we'll be able to experience God's best for our life. We give you praise for everything, Lord. Blessed be your holy name. In Jesus' mighty name we have prayed.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, everyone. God bless you. Have a great long weekend. Bye-bye.
Dr. Chichi is back.
Yeah,
She's back, I guess.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone. That was so interesting.
Wonderful.
My screen froze, but thank you all so much for coming, and we can't wait to see you at the next YAYA webinar. Thank you again, Dr. Fawole. Thank you, everyone. Have an amazing weekend.
Yes.
Okay, now I need to connect this guy and this guy.
I think people are sticking around for more. Maybe we can go another half hour. Dr. Fawole is ready, so we could do another half hour. Those who stick around. All right.